Hello, this is Statler Smith. You are watching one installment of a weekly series where I write an essay about something that's on my mind, record myself speaking that essay, and then upload that video to YouTube. For reasons set forth in the initial video in this series, this is a practice for myself. As such, this video will likely not be entertaining or particularly educational. Perhaps one day I will have value to add to others, but in the words of Aragorn, King of Gondor, it is not this day. If you choose to keep watching, feel free to give feedback on the clarity of thought and speech, as that is what I am trying to improve. Please let me know if you have undergone a similar journey or have tips to share. And who knows, maybe I will eventually add more video editing. With that, let's get into this week's essay.
In a somewhat recent podcast on the Diary of a CEO, Stephen and the guest, Stuart Russell, talk about the potential future that AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, may bring. One of Stuart's main points was that he is appalled that we are barreling toward a future that may result in the extinction of the human race, and the people that are at the front are not that concerned about safety. Even with the possibility that everything goes well and we find ourselves in a utopia of sorts, um, Stewart argues that none of the leading technologists have a plan for people to actually live in that world. None of the researchers has an idea about how people will be economically productive in a world with AGI and robots. Now, I don't think I'm going to be able to do much about the possibility of extinction, but this discussion did get me thinking about what I would do in a world where people, from an economic and production perspective, are superfluous. Let's say that robots and AGI provide for all of the needs of people. I don't need to go to work to survive. How do I spend my time? Many people describe such a state as being similar to like sitting on a beach and drinking martinis or something, or margaritas. I think that I'm not really sure. I don't drink too much, but that vision is like some sort of permanent relaxation. And I'll admit, I had a similar initial thought. If I didn't need to go to work and my future and the future of my family was secure, I'd probably start by spending some time relaxing. I know myself though, and eventually I'd become restless and depressed. So what then? I've learned from my recent job change that the baseline of hours I need to work to feel productive is between 55 and 60 hours a week. And productivity leads to me feeling good about myself. So I need to do something just to maintain kind of a emotional homeostasis. But what can I offer in a world where the robots provide for all of our needs? What could I possibly do that matters to anybody? If I'm working for the sake of working, that doesn't really feel like a solid future plan. It just feels hollow. For that, I think I'd start with the value that only I can provide. I'm a father, and the emotional connection with my daughter is not something that a robot can replace. My particular blend of quirks and fatherhood is unique. Combine my blend of personality with the relational investment I've already put into my relationship with my daughter, and I'm uniquely suited to be her father. While the economic support piece may no longer be needed, the emotional support piece will not go away. At least, not for me. Expanding out into a few other options, my relationship with my family and friends is also unique. Not that they aren't able to get what they need from other people, but my relationship with them is different from anything a robot could provide. Perhaps not better, but unique. In making these claims, I'm assuming that the value I provide is a function of my uniqueness, which I can get behind as in general as a statement on value. Based on these considerations, I think I'd spend most of my time with my family, nurturing those relationships, investing in their growth and development, laughing, telling stories, getting mad at each other. Those relationships and the community that forms from them is an experience that AI cannot replicate. Of course, family isn't perfect; it's not meant to be perfect. But I also think that the imperfections are what make it so beautiful, right? There's that Japanese concept where I don't know what it's called, but the idea is they take shattered pieces of pottery or broken pieces of pottery and fill in the cracks with gold. The concept being that the imperfections in a work can be what makes it beautiful. And in the same way, I think relationships are um, better if you think that the imperfections in the relationship are what make it beautiful, and that perfection is imperfect in that way. It's an interesting concept. That being said, I'd also need time to myself. I'm an introvert and I'm ambitious, so I want to work on something that could provide value to people. I think I'd write more, dabble in other forms and styles of writing, maybe a fiction story, a fantasy, science fiction, something like that. Maybe a memoir of the person I want to become, and then I live my life and figure out, see how accurate it was, right? So I think I'd spend more time writing, making music, cooking, probably playing soccer. I don't know if I'd be any good at them, but that's not really the point because the bar for good in a world with AGI and robots is perfect, flawless. I'd enjoy the journey though, and that's the point. Um, and that I think is the final concept of this is that we need to actually learn how to enjoy the journey because we say that a lot, but nobody ever does that. Um, which is really interesting because that's the way to be happy now is to enjoy the journey, enjoy where you are, and appreciate how far you've come, how far you still have to go. Just enjoy the journey. That wouldn't change. I think what would change is a specific path we decide to take to enjoy that journey, and the crutch of work for so many people would disappear. They wouldn't know where to get their identity um, because the identity that many people place on their work would evaporate. The psychological trauma for many people who would have that taken out from under them would be fascinating to explore. Um, I should probably feel worse about it in the case that that happens, but I think it'd be really interesting to explore. Um, but I mean, related to that, how we currently find joy in the journey, and that's how we find happiness. We would also always have problems. AI can be perfect, AGI and robots can be incredible, but humans will always have problems. Well, that's a fascinating part of human nature is our tendency to always identify problems, to invent drama where we don't have much. When life gets too boring, we're like, oh, well, did you hear what so and so said? Um, which is something another interesting thing to explore. In a world where AI and robots can solve all of our problems, what do we have left to complain about? What new drama would be caused by our boredom? Maybe that would be part of the new jobs that AI makes available is solving drama or creating drama for people. So, in a world where AI can manage every problem, we will make more, and humans will still have the task of finding meaning in their life, regardless of whether or not they have meaningful work. So it's been interesting to think about what I would do in a utopian future where my productivity is not needed, my financial support is not needed. Um, Frankly, maybe I should do more of that now. So, food for thought. Have a good week.